Every year you can draft a bust. So today we're talking through 5 make or break wide receivers for fantasy football. And the first one is the elephant in the room. It's Marvin Harrison Jr., who right now on Underdog is going at the early part of the second round. Going off the board, overall wide receiver 9, overall player 13.5. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is coming into the NFL as an absolute dog. You see the jerseys behind me. You know I'm a Ohio State fan. We don't need to dive into that. But the part that we do need to dive into with Marvin Harrison Jr. is the fact that he's getting drafted as the earliest rookie wide receiver we've ever seen in fantasy football. Granted, we've talked about guys in the last few years like a Justin Jefferson, a CeeDee Lamb, even Jamar Chase. For me, it's hard for me to really evaluate Marvin Harrison Jr. because he is still going to deal with some rookie struggles, we believe. But then at the same time, we're talking about him in this generational aspect where Marvin Harrison Jr. could get 150 targets in this Arizona Cardinals offense. He is the clear alpha. He is the clear number 1 X wide receiver. We've seen Kyler Murray in the past give his X wide receivers, whether it be a guy like a DeAndre Hopkins, a guy like a Hollywood Brown, get them 10 plus targets a game. So that's what makes me really excited about Marvin Harrison Jr. But I don't really have any stats because I could show you all the amazing college stats that Marvin Harrison Jr. has. The big worry for me is that Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't return his early second round price when you're having to take him ahead of guys that have done it in the NFL before. Now, I'm not getting crazy. I'm still taking Puka Nacua and Garrett Wilson above Marvin Harrison Jr. because we've seen it on the NFL field. We understand the upside of Garrett Wilson. We understand the upside of Puka Nacua. But Marvin Harrison Jr. can make or break your fantasy football team. Hopefully, secretly, I want him to make. I really want him to make, but I want you guys to know. Let me know down below. Is he going to make or break your fantasy football rosters in 2024? My second player that can make or break your fantasy football roster is going to be Drake London. And Drake London as a wide receiver, very good. Drake London, up to this point in his NFL career, has done nothing. And he's getting the wide receiver 10 price tag, overall player 14. And we've talked about how desolate the second round is. You're having to take guys with upside. There's not a ton of production that's available there in the second round. Wide receiver 43, wide receiver 42 on the last 2 years. Now, Drake London has not had a quarterback that's as good as a guy like Kirk Cousins. We just saw Kirk Cousins really do amazing work with Justin Jefferson, with Jordan Addison, and I think Drake London is more talented than Jordan Addison. So I think definitely being the clear 1 alpha level wide receiver is in the range of outcomes for a guy Jersey Drake. That's why he's being drafted as a wide receiver 10. My worry is, can he get to wide receiver 10 points per game numbers? Now, the same argument that applies to Marvin Harrison Jr. applies here with Jersey Drake. We haven't seen it, so we're kind of having to draft off of blind faith. And I never like drafting off of blind faith with a guy like Drake London. We do like this offense. We do like Bijan Robinson. We do like Kyle Pitts. We like the fact that there's no more Arthur Smith. If Drake London, even if he doubles what he's done the last 2 years, and all of a sudden we're looking at him as like wide receiver 18, you're still losing out on that value. You're still losing out on the points per game difference that you could if you had on another round 2 wide receiver. So for me, I'm not drafting a whole lot of Jersey London. I think it's crazy that he's going this way. I absolutely love the talent. I love the prospect, but I feel like I have to see it a little bit. I'm more willing to take the bet on Marvin Harrison Jr. because he was an elite level college prospect, whereas Jersey Drake was also an elite level college prospect, but not to that same level, and we haven't seen it in the NFL. So let me know what you're doing with Jersey Drake. Do you think he's going to make or break your fantasy football roster in 2024? My next wide receiver that can make or break your fantasy football roster is going to be Malik Nabers. And we talked similarly to Malik Nabers as we did with Marvin Harrison Jr. Getting that top 6 draft capital, so important for these rookie wide receivers. And when we're looking at this Giants depth chart, crickets. There's no one else to really throw the ball to. And Malik Nabers, absolute downfield threat. We've seen some rookie level wide receivers in this Giants offense before, aka OBJ back in the day. OBJ had Eli Manning throwing him the ball, and as much as Eli Manning, it was the end of his career, we knew he was like a decent level processing quarterback. We look at a guy like Daniel Jones, and we're like, what the heck? This dude got a major contract. We do not know what the heck this Giants offense is going to look like. The thing that we do know about the Giants offense is it's going to be bad. And if it's going to be bad, it means they're probably not going to be scoring a lot of points, and it means they're going to be down and they're going to be throwing the ball. I am predicting that the Giants are going to be a top 8 passing team in the NFL, not because they want to be, but because they have to be. And if that's going to be the case here with Malik Nabers, we could be talking about a guy that's going to get in that 130 to 140 target range, and he's a little bit cheaper than a lot of these other guys. I mean, you're just having to select Malik Nabers as wide receiver 19, still having to get him in the back end of the second, but I've even been seeing him really start to slip to like the early third because I think a lot of people are starting to get a little worried about Malik Nabers' overall value. So Malik Nabers could definitely make or break your fantasy football team. I'm in the position that I really think these rookies are going to make. I like Malik Nabers. I like Marvin Harrison Jr. Malik Nabers, normal class. We're still talking about him as one of these type of generational type prospects that do come about, but we had Marvin Harrison Jr., who is like freaking Megatron level prospect, come through. Next wide receiver that can make or break your fantasy football team is going to be Mr. George Pickens. And we know George Pickens' ultimate level boom type upside. We also know that through the last 2 years, we've been debating George Pickens versus Deontay Johnson, who's the true alpha in this Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver room. Last year, 12.3 fantasy points per game, wide receiver 36. The best part about knowing who the alpha is, they shipped off Deontay Johnson. So now George Pickens is the clear one in this offense that got a major quarterback upgrade. We had Kenny Pickett, who we didn't like. We didn't think Kenny Pickett could throw. We had the small hands. Then we bring in now Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. And I'm not saying that Russell Wilson or Justin Fields are top 5, top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. Don't get me wrong. Even the marginal upgrade from like QB 28 to maybe QB 26 to QB 25, which is what they're going to be, is going to be enough for a guy like George Pickens, who last year had 106 targets, to be a massive breakout candidate for me heading into 2024. Now, he has all the measurables that you'd want in an elite level, alpha level wide receiver, 6'3", 200 pounds. He is 23 years old, and his yards per reception has like gone up the last 2 years. Started off at 15.4, last year went up to 18.1. Even if he increases that slightly or keeps it at 18.1, if he can get more than the 106 targets, which I think he will because they just literally demolished Deontay Johnson, who was a 140 target share type guy. So we have a ton more targets to be throwing George Pickens' way. I'm super excited about George Pickens, and I don't think enough people are talking about it, and I don't think enough people are understanding that. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is going to be super efficient as a whole. I don't think it's going to be bad enough for George Pickens to really lose any value because you're having to take him at wide receiver 27. And I'm honestly, the more I looked into George Pickens, the more I realized there's a pretty big tier gap on Underdog once we kind of get past this Tank Dell, Zay Flowers, George Pickens range. Absolutely love George Pickens, and I think he's going to help make your fantasy football roster in 2024. And my final player that I think could make or break fantasy football in 2024 is going to be Mr. Hollywood Brown for the Kansas City Chiefs. You know me, I like some Rashee Rice. I like some Travis Kelce. Hollywood Brown is the closest thing we've seen in this offense since Tyreek Hill. Now, you might be saying to me, well, Caleb, Xavier Worthy, I think he could be Tyreek Hill. He's super fast, had an absolutely blazing 40 time at the NFL Combine. I hear you on that. My worry is we haven't seen it with Xavier Worthy, but we've seen it with Hollywood Brown. And in brief glimpses, Hollywood Brown has produced serious fantasy points. I mean, 2021, wide receiver 21 on a points per game basis, wide receiver 27 in 2022. And hear me out. He's played with Kyler Murray. So it's not like he's had terrible quarterback play. He's played with Kyler Murray. He's played with Lamar Jackson. But I mean, Patrick Mahomes, this is the cream of the crop. This is the person that you want your wide receiver going to that could turn them into an absolute fantasy football gem. And he's been an absolute target hawk, 100, 145, 107, 101 targets over the last 4 seasons. And he's been injured the last 2 seasons. He's been an absolute target machine. So you put him in an offense with a Travis Kelce or Rashee Rice, I think Hollywood Brown's probably going to be the clear 3 option. If we can increase this yards per reception, which has kind of been around 11, if he can get anywhere closer to like a 13 to 14 yards per reception, which I think he will because he won't have to be doing a lot of those intermediate route stuff. That's going to be the Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce show. I'm excited about it. Now, I think the target share when we're looking at this overall opportunity, the targets, the target rate, like I think all of that maybe gets a little higher, but that probably stays pretty much the same. I just think the efficiency that Hollywood Brown's going to get boosted up into in an Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes offense, I think that he could definitely make fantasy football for 2024. So let me know, is he a make or break? Where are you at with Hollywood Brown? Where are you at with these other wide receivers? Would love to talk with you down in the comments. Hit that like and subscribe button. We are helping you win some fantasy football championships in 2024. So appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one.